Hello, lovely people. Autumn is upon us, which means it is time for my spooky season TBR.
Doobie 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 doo. Doobie 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 Sophie vlogs.
I always love making an autumnal TBR. There are just some very specific moods that I get in during sort of September, October, early November. And I crave very specific genres. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll probably know what genres they are. Very much mysteries, spooky things, but also a little bit I often get in like a fantasy craving, a bit of like an emotions craving. Sometimes I want books that will make me emotional. What I thought I would do today is just run through the books that I'm planning to read. I'm recording this about mid-September. I don't know when it's actually going to go up. So these will probably be making an appearance in my September wrap-up, my October wrap-up, maybe even my November wrap-up, depending. I think I'm going quite big. I don't know. I'm not necessarily. My reading pace, I feel like my reading pace has slowed slightly the last couple of months. So I'm not sure how many of these I will actually read, but I thought I would dive into it. And I thought I would go sort of by genre. So I'm going to start off with my eternally autumnal reading mood, which is essentially mysteries, but also a little bit gothic. So the first mystery book that is on my radar is the Inigami Curse by Seishi Yokomizo. I read my first Seishi Yokomizo in August, and that's going to be reviewed in my August wrap-up. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't like an instant favourite, but there were many things about how the narrative was constructed that I found really interesting. I believe that this novel has the same detective who was introduced to us in that book, but Seishi Yokomizo is a big name in Japanese crime writing, so I bought a couple of his books just to sort of explore them further. In this one, the head of a clan dies and his will is read out, and then after the will is read out, there starts to be some very suspicious murders, and our detective is trying to sort of unravel what is happening, and in doing so, I believe that a lot of secrets and scandal is going to be revealed. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by this writer, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this one is like, because I don't think it's going to be very similar in the narrative setup to the first one, so very intrigued. The next two books I mentioned very recently in my book haul. The first one is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I won this in Olivia Savannah's giveaway. This is very much riffing off of Agatha Christie, and then There Were None. We follow the Darker family as they are gathered on this little remote island for, it's the first time they've been reunited in many years because they don't really get on. I believe it's either to do with the grandmother's will being read, or yes, I believe it's to do with the grandmother's will being read. Common theme there. But essentially the family is all gathered, the tide comes in, the island is cut off from the mainland, and then in the night someone is murdered, there is a mysterious poem left behind, and I'm anticipating family members being picked off one by one to mimic And Then There Were None. But And Then There Were None is one of my favourite Agatha Christie's. I think it's an incredibly well-written book. There's a reason it's iconic. This is a YA novel. So I'm interested to just see how that goes. That sort of setup sounds very evocative to me. There was a read-along of this in August. I just wasn't in the mood in August, whereas I feel like now I'm beginning to be in the mood. And then the Queen of Crime herself, I have The Clocks by Agatha Christie. This is a Poirot mystery. At this scene of a murder, there are 4 clocks left behind, all of which with the hands pointing to 4:13. And Poirot is trying to unravel this mystery. That is all I know about this mystery. I don't need to know a lot about Agatha Christie. I just really enjoy reading her. My final mystery book is Opium and Absinthe. That's a tongue twister, by Lydia Kang. This is set in turn of the century New York, so 1899. Dracula, the novel, has just been released, and the main character, her sister, is found dead with puncture marks on her neck, drained of blood, and she is determined to find out what has happened. She's sort of grappling with, does this mean vampires are real? Or is someone trying to push that narrative to hide the meaning of the murder? So she's determined to unravel it, but also she is addicted to opium, and that has an effect upon her senses and her perception of the world. This is one that I have been saving for months for this season because I knew that I would want to read it around now. So I'm really looking forward to actually finally diving in. To jump off of that to vampires in general, a book that I've already started dipping my toes into is Vampyres, Lord Byron to Count Dracula by Christopher Frayling. This is an anthology of vampire literature, but it is also sort of unraveling and tracing the development of vampire literature and the way that all of these different writers influenced each other, and sort of the influence of the Gothic in general, I think, just based on the little introduction bit that I've read so far. So this has lots of extracts from things in, so maybe I won't read the whole thing, but I'm definitely going to dip into it and hopefully discover some novels that I would like to read in more depth. So that's going to be exciting. Carrying on that Gothic theme, I also want to pick up Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I really enjoy Silvia Moreno-Garcia's writing, and I like that she writes so broadly, so I haven't read anything of hers that is sort of filling this Gothic genre yet. I believe, I cannot remember any character names, that's why I keep saying the main character, I'm really sorry. But our main character, her sister married this man and went to live with him and his family, and our main character receives, I believe, a letter from her that makes her extremely concerned, so she decides to go and stay with them herself. But when she turns up, I can't remember if her sister is there or not, but the family are very much going for, there's nothing to see here, everything is fine. But she decides to stay around for a while. I would anticipate that maybe there is something going on here and everything is not fine. But yes, I have heard nothing but praise for this book. I know lots of people really loved it. Again, this is one that I felt like would fit very well in this particular time to read. So I'm just excited to explore it. I don't have a lot of non-fiction bookmarked for the sort of spooky season. And that might change. I do like reading non-fiction, but the only one that is actively on my radar currently is The Way Through the Woods of Mushrooms and Mourning by Longlit Woon, because, as we all know, autumn is when the mushrooms thrive. My last autumn, I did a lot of mushroom watch because it turns out where I live now has various little points where mushrooms sprout. I will be continuing to do mushroom watch. This is, as well as being about mushrooms, it is also a bit of a memoir about the author's experience of losing her husband and coping with the grief. And I believe that she sort of turned to nature, and that's where that's what a lot of this is exploring. So I think that this is going to be potentially very sad, but very contemplative, and I would like to learn a bit as well. I am wearing my chanterelle mushroom earrings deliberately in this video. But again, I've heard nothing but praise for this. I think this edition is stunning. So this is one that I'm hoping to take my time over. Might get joined by some more non-fiction. I'm not entirely sure yet. My very kind friend lent me a book that I feel like is perfect for this season, mainly because of vengeance as a theme. So this is A Spartan Sorrow by Hannah Lynn. I think the cover is stunning. This is all about Clytemnestra, who I have really strong feelings about. I have a lot of feelings about Clytemnestra and Helen, actually, and I've talked about Helen a lot on this channel. Here is my Helen of Troy Bettany Hughes book. But Clytemnestra is one who I don't think I've actually read that many books based around. But I think she's a character who in like original mythos is very much a lesson in what not to be as a woman. But actually, I think as a modern reader, especially these lines of myth that involve Agamemnon sacrificing their child, stuff like this, like she's actually a woman that it is extremely easy to root for. So I'm kind of hoping for like dark vengeance. I love Greek mythology retellings that have sort of like the gods very present in them, and this, on the back of this, it says, if you're a fan of vengeful gods and fierce family rivalries, you will love Hannah Lynn's epic tale of ancient Greece's most formidable queen. I love the formidable women in ancient Greece. I love Clytemnestra. I love Medea. I want more books about them, please. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm definitely going to try and prioritize it in the spooky season. My other assorted extras include Pandora by Susan Stokes-Chapman. This is set in Edinburgh, which already most of the time that I've been to Edinburgh has been during autumn winter time, so it's a city that I associate with those seasons. And then you just have to watch people like Ashley at Frolic Through Fiction's channel and all of her little like autumnal Edinburgh videos, and it evokes emotions in me and I want to go back. This has beautiful sprayed edges with little pots on because it is about antiquities. So our main character Dora is an aspiring jewellery artist, but she lives and works in her parents' antiquities shops. And one day, this mysterious Greek vase is delivered, and in trying to unravel the mystery of this vase, essentially everything about her life comes into question, everything is challenged, and they go down this little mystery hole. This feels very colour palette autumnal, and maybe I should have included this in the mystery section, but I also need to show you the beautiful end papers. They're stunning. But yes, extremely intrigued by that one. One that I think is just going to be emotional. I was like, maybe if I fancy having my heart ripped out in the spooky season, I have Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This essentially is inspired by Shakespeare's son Hamlet, who died. But it's not focusing on Shakespeare at all. We're focusing on the mother and her grief. And I've just heard so many things about how sad this is and how emotional it is. Maggie O'Farrell is a writer who, the only other book I've read by her was an extremely different genre and sort of tone. So I'm really intrigued by this because I've also heard how beautiful the writing is. So this is sort of like, should I wish to be sad in October? Then I'll read that. And then finally, I have The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. I have meant to read Louise Erdrich for so long. I know that when you see lists of recommendations for Native American writers, she is always included, and she's been very prolific and has so many books out there. This one sounds extremely affecting. Follow this family that live on a reservation in North Dakota. The mother is brutally raped, and she ends up, as a result, going inward and turning silent. And the father seeks justice, but is ultimately not given it. And so I think the main character that we are focusing on is their child, who finds their life so affected and so changed by this. The back really makes it sound like it's a story of survival, and that it's very poignant, and it's also somewhat about that experience as a child of having your childlike view of the world shattered by being forced to grow up and forced to engage in these situations that you shouldn't have to. I think it sounds very emotionally affecting. I also have a Louise Erdrich on my Kindle, which is The Night Watchman, and all I know of that is that it is inspired by her grandfather's experience to do with this particular law that passed in America that really affected Native American communities. I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick up yet, but I would like to pick up one of them because I have been really wanting to read her for so long, and I want to make sure I prioritize that within the next couple of months. I know that I pitched this as spooky season. I've not included that many spooky books. Most of them are just mystery and a little bit of gothic. I would really love to hear from you any of your recommendations for spooky season reads. I'm not very good with horror or scary things. I like creeping dread, suspense, evocative stuff. I don't like to actively be terrified or read gory things. So I would be really interested if you have any recommendations, because I would definitely pick up more. I might end up picking up other books as well that tap into it. These are the sort of ones that in mid-September are really tickling my fancy. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. Do you have anything you've been bookmarking that you've been saving for this time period? What sort of books are you drawn to in the sort of autumnal spooky times? Yeah, otherwise, I hope you're having a lovely day. I will see you next time for something different.